Hollywood spends way too much money on films. What does it mean? Sydney Sweeney adds $400 million to American Eagle with her jeans. Could AI do that? Then we're gonna have a big discussion about AI acting versus humans. Can AI have a soul? We have very, very strong opinions on this. And then, can you rewrite somebody else's movie and change the ending? Is that ethical? Hollywood spends way too much money on films. And, well, we know that. We know that every blockbuster nowadays costs $300 million. And most of them are not making that money back. So this has become quite a big problem. Benedict Cumberbatch actually went on a podcast, as well as Kumail Nanjiani. I don't know how to say his name. Both of them alluded to the same fact that Marvel films are incredibly wasteful. So they provided both of them with private drivers, assistants, anything they wanted was just one call away, including the meals. And while it makes sense for certain roles and for certain actors like Chris Hemsworth, who has to show off his body, that's part of his contract, but for some roles like Benedict Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange, does he really need to be that ripped? Both of them talked about how it's not only about food and not only about the services for the stars, but also how the whole industry doesn't really care about being environmentally friendly or reusing stuff. Think about the sets. Sets are built, used for a couple of days, and then taken down, never to be used again. If there is a sequel, they'll probably rebuild the set. It's not like it's stored in some warehouse for a long time. So this whole industry is built on thousands of people building something very ephemeral that then disappears and is just captured on film. That costs a lot of money, and now that the industry is struggling, now that the studios actually need to show some kind of a profit, Netflix is turning to AI. We see more and more deals that big studios are making with these AI providers. And this has been done traditionally with VFX. But the AI is just such a massive cost reduction that raises questions. Is using AI actually more environmentally friendly? Is it going to be actually less wasteful to replace a lot of the shots with just AI generated stuff? What do you think, Dim?
This is an interesting one. So I actually I was getting my hair cut on Wednesday, Mik, last Wednesday. Thank you for noticing, by the way.
Was it closed?
Hey. And I spoke to a friend of mine who is a VFX artist on Nolan's Odyssey. And actually he was talking about how the ships they've built aren't built to last. They're just built just to about float. And then afterwards, they'll either just store them or, like you said, take them apart. So I get your point. And I guess it comes down to a few reasons. When you see something on film that's real, you know it. You know, Ben-Hur, the famous chariot race, they built a massive coliseum. You see it, you feel it, you can see it's alive, which is one of those things we talk about a lot is can the audience will attach something on screen because they know it's a living, breathing entity, even if it's just a prop. Using AI, I can see how it would benefit studios to generate, like we saw last week, the Netflix shot of Argentina falling apart with the thing used there. I get the arguments, financially and more sustainably conscious, opposed to the real authenticity that the audience connect with. And I see that both ends of the spectrum. See, I'm in question with this whole AI generative stuff because I think maybe in the long run, it's not going to be sustainable. And the reason I think so, the amount of electricity that we are seen to be using in these AI apps, APIs, software all over the world at the moment, the electricity farms that have to be built to support this network. In the long run, at this moment, for a single film, yes, case-by-case basis, AI is winning. But if you're looking over 10, 15, 20 years of filmmaking, what will actually be the numbers? And I'd like to see how that lays out. So I'm on the fence on this one.
Yeah, I'm on the fence as well because there are no real stats so far. The one thing that we can mention here, because you mentioned Nolan, is crashing the actual plane in Tenet. Yeah, which was an amazing shot. Looks great on camera. But that raises a question. You destroyed an actual large airplane, right? Like that brings a lot of consequences. Just you need to think about, okay, we need to dispose of it later on. All the people involved, the safety. Sometimes, people die on film sets. Sometimes they get injured. And, what if you could have avoided that? What if somebody died during that airplane explosion on set? Would then people say that it was more worth it to actually do it in post? And there are amazing videos on YouTube that you can find about the invisible visual effects, right? Like you think about shows like Mindhunter by David Fincher, and it doesn't look like a show that uses VFX, but it's just every single shot has so much stuff composited into it that it becomes basically a new shot altogether. So I am a little bit struggling with the idea that something needs to be real. Again, I'll just bring up Pixar and Toy Story and all these films that completely replace the idea of human beings and real stuff in the frame, and they still work. However, there is a little bit of, I want to see real stuff. I want to see real people. I want to see specific actors. Like nowadays, you go to see a movie because of Tom Cruise.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. Look at every Tom Cruise PR stunt. Top Gun, we did this in real airplanes with real actors. Mission Impossible, how many times do you see that bloody BTS advert of him with the motorbike on the ramp going off the cliff in Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Yeah, one of them. Like I haven't seen the last.
I don't know the titles, but yeah, I agree. I think we go for spectacle. Same reason why people went to the circus in the late 1800s, early 1900s to see spectacles.
But look, the problem is that the last two Mission Impossible movies haven't made their money back. So this is going to make greenlighting anything like this in the future way harder. So what if we are at the crossroads where the question really becomes, we either do this with AI, this specific shot at 10% of the cost, or we don't have a movie, right? Like what if this is the only way, because people's habits have changed. People do not go to cinema as much, right? Like people have larger and larger screens at home. You can get a 100-inch TV for less than £2,000 nowadays. And if you think about it, that is way better quality than most cinemas right now. Like nobody's investing in refurbishing cinemas. The projectors are old, the image is dim. So you go there for the vibes, right? And it doesn't seem... I understand that, but like it doesn't seem like people agree with you en masse because the box office numbers are going down, right? People have so much to watch right now on Netflix and Amazon Prime. So maybe the spectacle of cinema is going to be preserved by the fact that there is a new technology that reduces the cost of certain sequences by 90%. Maybe that's the only way for this type of cinema to, persist in the future.
It's so hard because I get the PR stunt. I get the PR idea of this is a real person. This is Tom Cruise jumping out of a jet with an Arri Alexa tied to the cameraman's, head at the same time. I get that is like, it's the same reason we watch Jackass growing up. The same reason we watch these shows where people hurt themselves. It's that same thing. That's different because that's Schadenfreude, pleasure, other people's misfortune.
But that's why people watch YouTube. That's why you watch YouTube when people do these stunts, when they say, I build the biggest X. I race the fastest car against
Mr. Beast. Come on.
Exactly. It's a spectacle, right? And people like to watch it. But I would not watch an AI Mr. Beast. You know what I mean? Like, I would never watch AI YouTube like this because I don't care about the fastest AI car, because that can be as fast as your imagination goes, right? So that's why I think we can jump to the next topic, which is the authenticity in the age of AI. How much the authentic content is going to explode in value. Because all of this AI content, I find myself, I am a huge proponent of AI. This is the whole kind of starting point of this podcast. But I don't like to watch AI content on social media. I do not care if there is a cute animal doing a trick and then I realize it's AI and I'm like, I don't care. If it didn't happen in real life, I don't care. I don't want AI stuff to flood my timeline. If it's a fake content, if it's something scripted, I'm more lenient to it because, you know, I'm watching it for the story, not to see the actual people. However, and this brings me to the Sydney Sweeney point. She was in the American Eagle ad, which has, of course, nowadays its fair share of controversy, but it's just her being in like jean jackets and like denim trousers for American Eagle. This campaign, in its short time frame now, has added $400 million to the company market cap, which is insane. So even if they paid her, you know, 10 million, like that paid for itself multiple times. But would it have worked with any other pretty girl that looks like her, has the same body proportions? No, because nobody cares about random girl. We want to see Sydney Sweeney. Same thing with AI. If there was a version of Sydney Sweeney that's AI, again, people do not care. We tie ourselves and we can relate to and we can care about other humans, right? Like other humans is what we want to see in any authentic content. So that's where I do see your point of like, we are going to keep going to cinema to see the actual real celebrity actors.
I mean, we were talking about before, weren't we? Like Marvel, we know they've been going on a real downward like trajectory of all their stuff, and you know for sure there was a Marvel boardroom meeting. Okay, we need to do something, and someone just went in the corner and went, "RDJ, let's bring him back." Because like clearly that was the last time the audience were engaged in any Marvel film, if we're being real, right?
Yeah.
So they've pivoted and they've said, okay, cool, Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, let's bring him back. You saw the reveal on stage with the mask when he just stepped out. It was like Jesus came back after 3 days. He literally did his Tony Stark thing, and the crowd went mental. It's that's what you can't replicate. And I know that in the world, and I keep coming back to it, there's that Hatsune Miku in Japan, where it's a completely AI artist, AI songs, and people go to a concert to see that, that's the whole, so there's other ends of it. You cannot reproduce celebrity, and like you said, Mik, the connection we have with a real person. And that's why I will die on this grave, like, we will never go to cinema, we will never watch a performance of AI and go, I feel this, I want this, I want to go see that again. So that's why it's lived experience. It is lived experience, and that comes back to what we were talking about.
Again, I would counter this with watching Avatar. You watch something which is just completely made with computers. It is motion capture that's just cleared up, because it's never perfect. So all of these micro expressions, that's actually just created in a computer. They get the overall performance, but then it's smoothed out by AI, because these points are not captured properly on the face. But regardless, I agree with your point here 100% that if there's a real person behind a project, if there's a real person that we want to see the movie for, that is the value of them. That's why we pay them the big bucks. You can have bands like Gorillaz, right? Remember Gorillaz? It's like completely made up band. Like they don't actually exist. It's like one guy that made the whole thing. And it was back in the day when it was incredibly hard to make this. I don't even know how he paid for the actual like animated music videos. Yeah. Like you could do this now, but people wouldn't care as much as they cared back then, right?
That's the difference, because that's okay, cool. I'm stealing a scene from The Young Pope, but this is the exact same point he said in this TV series. The most successful techno electrical musical band in history. Who would you say it is?
I have no clue. Maybe
Daft Punk.
Oh yeah, nobody knows what they look like.
Exactly. And any other artist you can think in
Diplo?
Diplo, for a period of time. Sia.
And there was also
show a face.
There are a couple of YouTubers like that. Dream, I think, was the one that didn't have a face, right? Like there are a couple of big faceless YouTubers that made it the whole shtick that people didn't know who they were. That
goes back to even going throughout history. People like, let's go back. Quote unquote, don't laugh. Deep Throat, the person who did the scandal, who basically got President Nixon out of office. It was this whole invisible person in the ether who we didn't know who they were, but yet it's that ability of not seeing which makes it cool. So I think we're going a bit of a segue here because it's not going back to AI.
I think that kind of is very tied to the idea here that you can create something that doesn't exist in real life that people do care about. I think you talked yourself like completely into my direction, because
no, but let's go
all of these examples just prove the fact that people do not need to care about the person behind it. It's like Batman in The Dark Knight, right? When he says it's not about the person. Yeah, it's not about the person. It's about the idea. It's about what they represent, right? Like it's about the symbol.
Where does that idea come from, Mik?
Well, it comes from a human mind. That's fine.
There you go.
Yeah, but that's not the point here. Like, cool,
that is the point here. That is completely the point.
Okay, so the origins of the idea are human mind, and then you can go back to like chemical processes and how random all of this is. I agree. The human in the loop is incredibly important because you need something. Even if you create a symbol, you need to, for a symbol to be successful, for any type of revolution, idea, or movement to be successful, there needs to be somebody behind it who understands it and can relate to other human beings, right? Like you need to understand, what do people want? What do people want to follow? What do people believe in?
And that leads nicely on to, I think, what we're talking about, people to relate to, relatability. That's what it comes down to. Like now we're talking about last week, Mik and I were doing a bit of a fun with using AI to regenerate some famous scenes from films. And we're talking about the idea of, will you ever like connect with a person on screen? And I think as cool as AI is, and we keep throwing around the term, the soul of a performance, I think that comes down to a lived experience. And that's what drives a performance, the idea that it's subjective. And I don't think no matter what you do, AI will ever be able to tap into that. It can recognize patterns, facial twitches, emotional cues, but we can see a lived experience in performance. And that's why I think I will never cry, Mik, to see an AI performance. I will never feel the way I see where Daniel Day-Lewis is going, I've abandoned my child. I will never feel that way for AI.
Unless there's a video that you don't know it's AI, which is what I'm banking on. Because then you're going to remove your bias against it. The one thing that I strongly disagree with, having been in the acting world for quite some time, for some time, not quite some time, I would say having been in the acting world, I have learned that you don't have to have actual lived experience to emulate something. Acting is emulating something and faking it well enough that other people believe you. You don't have to go and murder someone to play a murderer, right? So you don't have to have traumatic experiences in your life to be able to just tap into it. And suddenly a lot of the things can be pretty formulaic and then stitched together in the edit, right? So when people say, oh, he's like dead behind the eyes, or he has the thing in his eyes, right? It might be as simple as you can see in my lighting here, I set up the light that it gives me that small reflection inside of my eye, right? Like that's a simple lighting trick.
Big anime eyes.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do in filmmaking, right? Like you're supposed to play with the light, you're supposed to play with the wardrobe, you play with the context of the character, right? And making the simple changes, like you always light a person from one side throughout the movie, and suddenly when they go through a transformation, you start lighting them from the other side, or you suddenly shoot wide, you shoot close to showcase that somebody is entrapped in their mind. You go for a big close-up, or if you want to show that if you want to show the power struggles between two people, you film their point of view from up and down to see that, that person feels smaller in the frame, right? So
mise en scène. Yeah, we talk about all the time.
Exactly. So the performance of a person, I wouldn't say a lot. Like, I don't even know if I can guess the percentage here. But the performance of the actor in that moment is only as good as the context allows it to be. And if, like, you could have a person just stand there and not say anything, and you could tell this story that people could relate to with just lighting, voiceover, cutting to different shots, that how do they react to something, how do they not react to something. And people would say, oh my God, everything was just in his eyes, right? It's like, yeah, it's constructed.
Okay, but see, this is where I've kind of narrowed down my train of thought here, why I'm so on this point. It's about understanding, okay, actors, fine, like they are malleable pieces of dough that can form themselves into what they need to, right? But that comes with understanding the text, So it's about reading a scene, putting yourself as a human being in that scene, in that position, in that emotional state, for your best opinion. You're not going to throw yourself like mimically the person, but you're going to do your best to sympathize for that character and see, okay, so that thing happened to this person. What emotions would I feel? I would feel these emotions. Cool, that is my basis for my performance. And I keep thinking about it, and that's what AI can't do. AI can say that this bad thing happened to someone. Let's go back to pick me a random scene from a film. First one that comes to your head. Just a really random scene or whatever you.
Gal Gadot saying Kal-El, no, to Superman.
We're not doing superheroes. We are not. That's just terrible. So I know why you're teeing that one up.
No. I'm teeing that up specifically because there are poor actors and there are actors who do an awful job at being convincing.
Yeah.
And also, a ton of acting is done by the director. It's the director who has the idea, and the actor can say, I would like to cry in this scene, and the director can say, cool, but you're gonna smile because I actually want you to do this, right?
Yeah.
And you famously have, David Fincher doing 99 takes because he wants a specific outcome from a scene, right? And I do think that, again, an actor can be a better or worse piece of a puzzle to the whole scene and to the fact that you relate to it or you care about it or not. If there is no context, very few actors can come in to the stage. Stage is actually a completely different beast, but very few actors can just come. Yeah. Very few actors can just show up with absolutely no backstory, you not knowing anything, and make you cry within a minute and a half with, just a couple of words. So you wouldn't know if somebody comes in and there is no context. Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? Or like, without the mise en scene, there's no acting that you can care about, and that takes us to the symbol thing.
I don't know. No, I disagree, because I would. If let's stick to narrative, right? We're in the narrative function here. I don't think any actor will just turn up and read the text. I think they would read the text, take their take on it, and that's what acting is. And I know Gal Gadot, that's a casting thing. That's a good actor, bad actor. She's a terrible actor, but she's, very attractive. She has PR pull, and that's when people go to see it. Fine. Well, not a good PR pull at the moment, if you've seen what happened in Moorgate Station a few weeks ago. But that's the job of hiring a good actor. Fine. But going back to it, it's a scene, a scene from a film, someone crying because of loss. On paper, the AI can understand what's happening in the text. This is a series of events. This person has died. This person feels sad. They're going to go on revenge story to, make it better. But what does that actually feel like? And that's what AI cannot do. And that's where performance comes in. It comes from understanding and how you portray it.
I agree with you to like a 95% agree here. I agree with the fact that the performance needs to be driven by a certain kind of logic and to relate that a human being would go through emotion A, then emotion B, emotion C. That's why you have the 5 stages of grief, 5 stages of accepting that, you have an addiction, you know what I mean?
Model Kubler-Ross is called, yeah.
You can model human behaviors and human reactions quite predictably, right? Let's be honest, we all think we're like such special snowflakes that we're, so unique. But if that was the case, then Facebook and Google wouldn't be the most valuable businesses in the world, because all they did is they just found patterns and they can predict your next purchase just on the fact that you're a 34-year-old man living in London and doing those things, and you browse the last 7 things. So there are probably 1,000 guys like you in this area. You're going to buy toilet paper next week. So human behavior can be broken down and just depends on the resolution, right? So that's why an acting performance, let's bring the Daniel Day-Lewis performance from No Country for Old Men.
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood, yeah. Amazing performance. And AI cannot replicate it right now. But we would need to give it a little bit of a fair chance by saying, it's not like he just came on set, did it, and went home. There were multiple takes. They rehearsed it. They talked about it for months. They worked with the director on set. And after his first take, they go, do you know what? It would be fun if after this sentence, you actually did this and then slam your fist and then do that. It's not all improv, right? Like a lot of this stuff is premeditated and planned out. And his job as a professional is to make it seem like it just happened naturally, right? So if you put yourself in a director hat, and this is what we actually did last week, right? Like we took some performances, and me playing with VO3, I was a director and I said, I want this performance. And I can put the clips in here. So I was wondering whether you can take a terrible acting performance by a human, Gal Gadot again, saying Kal-El no, and then whether AI could give me a better performance than a bad performance from a human. And what we arrived at after multiple iterations was a couple of interesting things. First, we realized that it actually is more flexible than we thought. It does react to small cues, and you can direct a performance like say this word, then take a breath, close your eyes, look to the right, there's a tear going down the cheek, and then with trembling voice, say something else. And this is directing. So obviously AI cannot do it on its own because it cannot analyze the output. But you as a director, you have a virtual actor. So you can direct them to do those things. And then the second thing, which was very, very surprising, was how much of creative interpretation, and this is exactly what you've been talking about right now. You give an actor text, and they do the creative interpretation of that text. I gave AI this prompt saying, there's Wonder Woman standing in a room, it's a close-up shot, and she says, Kal-El no, and then she cries, says, I won't fight you, and then do it. If you think about it, that's probably only 5% of what this scene needed in terms of the description. The 95% of that scene, in terms of the lighting, what does the woman look like, what she actually does, is the creative interpretation from our AI actor, from the model. Yeah, you couldn't take just a sentence, Kal-El no, on the script and say it's the exact same amount of creativity as seeing it on screen.
But I think and that's the reason things like Mid-Journey work, because it's all about your reference point. Wonder Woman, cool. I'm sure the model's been trained like, okay, Wonder Woman looks like this. In all the imagery the AI can see on the internet of the awful Gal Gadot, it knows that often she appears in shots like this, the cinematography is like that. So I think it is pulling, like you're right, it is pulling all reference points together.
Can I ask you a question? When you make a movie, have you ever made a mood board?
Yes, I do make a mood board and a storyboard.
So can you explain to the audience, what is a mood board? Is it like references?
A mood board is a series of visual references for you
wait, so do you have references then that you draw from? Have you ever done this, that when you make a film, when you make a show, you're like, oh, I have seen this lighting in another scene. I'm going to take this and combine it with something else from somewhere else. Wait. Are you taking inspiration from everybody else's work, remixing it and making it your own movie?
But you are taking a pre-existing concept of Wonder Woman that's already heavily though. So it's like
so when they make a new Superman movie, they need to take that character with all the references from the past. So are you saying that it's the same as AI? We all use references. Inspiration.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Inspiration wouldn't come to you if you didn't know anything about filmmaking, right? Anything about 3-point lighting, how to do a fill, that you need this light in the eyes, and blah 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 blah. All of these things you take from other people. You take the puzzles from other people. You take, I saw these lenses have been used on this film. I saw this camera was used on this film.
Stop quoting me.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like, we all take the inspiration and references from somewhere else and we just remix them. Like, that's how it works. I don't know why we say that AI is different than humans from that.
Because in the guise of what you're speaking about is interpretation and what it interpreted, okay, it's already has a bank of what to do. I don't think it's smart that AI can interpret. I would like to just define interpretation, okay? So you said quite clearly before, like, you know, when you do how many generations, sometimes something random happens. Is that random creative interpretation in the code, or is it just a process that followed and landed?
It doesn't exist.
It landed there.
No, it doesn't exist. That's the thing. You need to understand that all these AI models, that the way they work is actually mathematically they can create something that has never existed. Like the pixels that I showed you, right? Like if you imagine that shot actually doesn't exist anywhere with combination of these elements. These pixels do not exist. These are every single pixel is fresh. It has never existed in this combination before. There's mathematically no way for any of this to have existed before. This is completely fresh work. And the one ghost in the machine, the Deus Ex Machina, that blew our mind a little bit, was I only prompted to say, do it, take a pause, and say, do it again, as she braced herself from laser impact from Superman, because that was recreating a fight. But in one of the performances, and I will call it a performance, the model took liberty and went, do it. She closed her eyes and said, come on, do it. If that's not creative interpretation of that moment, I didn't say the words come on. The words come on were not in the prompt. They were nowhere else to be seen, which means that was a fully fucking ghost in the machine moment where it was recreating it. She is human. She lives somewhere in a computer. That's what I'm saying.
No. It's literally like AI going, I'm going to look into all the times in film when someone says, do it. Oh, but mathematically,
so like looking into your lived-in experiences?
What do you mean lived-in experiences? No, it's coming from source. That's different. That's different.
So taking like your emotions?
Not emotions. It's like ABC, process of emotions. AI knows, and we know this, that it can do pattern recognition. The same way you said AI and Amazon will know when you're going to order something. It knows that, okay, if I'm going to say do it and I'm about to be hit, people normally say the word come on afterwards. That is it following a series of logical events that it does, okay? That it can do. But that's just looking and saying that mathematical equation that, or even that, A, B, C, D, what comes out after D? It is E, right? That is what any logical machine can do. It's like counting to 10.
So if we had Matthew McConaughey say, do it, and then he adds, come on, do it, where did his command come from?
That come up with something where he can tap into, or I'm just ad-libbing here.
So he's tapping into some pattern that he is in his head that says, after do it, I would say, come on, and I would say, do it.
Yes.
So there is a pattern that he has.
Which would you rather watch, though? Matthew McConaughey or actually, no, Gal Gadot, we're using terrible because she's a terrible actress.
Come on, that AI girl is pretty, like, it's pretty hot. Like, we need to,
She is Gal Gadot is an awful actress. That is bad selection. She is awful. There's nothing redeeming about any performances at all. But I get but that's your benchmark. Your benchmark's low there. We're talking a low benchmark versus a high benchmark.
No. We're talking about an overall statement saying humans can do it, AI can't. To now, we finally got to a point where we can say the bottom 10% of actors.
Gal Gadot.
Yeah, but the bottom 10% of actors could feasibly perform worse on screen than the top 10% of AI. And if we assume the AI improvement, that is a pretty significant step.
But that's AI trained on the top 10% of actors, though.
So far.
Is it not?
But one thing that was really that we kind of agreed on is that acting and oftentimes good filmmaking is constrained by time, by budget, by any type of resources, and by access to good actors. And you see that in TV. You see that the TV superheroes are not necessarily the greatest shows. And especially the old CW shows, if you look at the scenes there, they're sometimes atrocious, both acting, editing, visual effects. So I would say that this could play in that bottom league so far. We need to remember this tech is 2 years old. So,
and what did I say to you actually? I will give Mix's due what I did take my hat off and said you are right in the scene where I call it the CSI level of acting. Your CSI Miami, your CSI just these low ball productions where it's volume, isn't it? At those points, come on, how many episodes are in a CSI series or whatever series in that retrospect is? That is low grade, and you know what you're getting yourself into while watching that stuff. So I will say, it's fighting that level, okay? Which I don't go to watch performance. People go watch it because it's the equivalent of brain rot, in my opinion, in the narrative world.
Let's just acknowledge one thing: that VO3, the model that can actually do it with voice and performance and everything, is less than 3 months old. So this is the first model that can do it. Let's look towards VO4 and VO5 and see what they can do. The one thing to just maybe close it off, the acting from my perspective, to just bring it back to how certain things can be formulaic, is if you think about Joker from The Dark Knight, it was the groundbreaking performance, mostly driven later on by the death of Heath Ledger, but it was very creative what him and the director and the makeup artist and everybody else involved, they created a character where Heath Ledger completely disappeared, and it was, you would see the Joker with this small, when he was licking his makeup. That would have never occurred if there was not a human being behind there licking his makeup because it was just uncomfortable for him.
Yeah, and fun fact, he did all his own makeup, actually. It was him himself. He just went in and went crazy. That's just a genius in Heath Ledger.
So we like to also romanticize a lot of those stories, and it's amazing to talk about and to believe in a lot of it. However, you can see later on a lot of parodies, a lot of people recreating that performance. And it can get to 99% there, right? Because something has been done, and then somebody took it, broke it down into, anytime you see impressions, Jim Carrey doing impressions of other people, how do they arrive at them? They watch and they go, okay, he always does this tick. So
Clint Eastwood always doesn't look, Clint Eastwood's impression is his eyes are closed. He's like this, he's very angry. He talks out of his mouth.
And that's my point, that every great performance to that level can be broken down into a series of ingredients that then somebody else can put together, and if they have enough skill, they can recreate it basically one-to-one, right? So if we can take those performances and analyze, okay, big performances were driven by this series of ingredients, we could potentially, and again, I think actors have already cracked that code. If you probably talk to Al Pacino or Robert De Niro, they would tell you that, all that magic, it's not really magic, but that's also all the actors who are kind of more cynical after having been there for many, many years.
40, 50 years, yeah.
Let's switch to your topic, which is the last topic that we have.
Mik, in Planet of the Apes, who are you rooting for?
Humans.
In The Matrix, who are you rooting for?
Humans.
Great. So I've been doing a bit of research into this, and I'm wondering, like you said, when you say about the AI ads, and I don't care, it's not real, or it's I know it's AI, I'm not invested in it. There was a study in America where they asked an audience, would you watch an AI performance? And a lot of predictably it came back, 78%, quote unquote, don't quote the exact numbers, it varies every year, would not watch an AI performance, they'd watch a human performance. And all this boils down to is the fact that as human beings, we consider ourselves like at the pinnacle. We are the apex. That's the reason we have dominion over the earth. So anything that immediately comes into our territory or starts, it's our back garden, and something else has started like cutting the grass in that corner. Hey, I don't like that. I'm cutting the grass there. That's my grass. Like that, my grass is better. We inherently have this blueprint bias that we won't connect with it because we are humans. We are egotistical. We think we are God's hot shit or Satan's or I don't know, who's the guy who did Scientology, whatever. We are the hot shit of the world. And that was quite interesting because it's thinking, are there people who think we know there are? Humans are the best because you can't replicate it. That's it. Done. We are the best. Right? Or is it people...
Like what you're saying?
Yeah. Or is it people who have genuine arguments to why? But that's really interesting because something inherently in us doesn't want to connect with something that isn't made by another human being.
I think that's a perfect point that you should consider yourself. That anytime you hear that something is AI, you inherently don't even want to consider the possibility of this being good because it's AI, right? So
good. No, sorry.
No, so it's like, it cannot act. It cannot do these things. And I wanted to bring one point to you. You know the Turing Test?
Yes.
So Alan Turing devised this test, and it was back in mid 20th century, where he said that for us it was like an arbitrary point where we would say that the machines are as good or as intelligent as human beings if you could sit a person at a terminal, so talk to a computer via chat, and on the other side, there's either a person or a computer responding. And if that person couldn't tell whether it's a computer or whether it's a machine or whether it's human. And this test was something unfathomable for us that this will ever pass. The computer could ever trick somebody to thinking that this is a human being. Up until suddenly ChatGPT happened, we zoomed past this and completely didn't notice that we passed this test 2 years ago. We have technology that you can talk to. And if you are not primed to ask yourself a question, whether it's a human being or AI, it can very reliably trick you into being human. It can imitate being human via text, right? So that whole thing has already happened in text. And the premise of why this test could even work is that you do not tell people that there is AI on the other side. So if that same audience that in this research was asked, would you watch an AI performance? And they say no. Cool. But I bet there's going to be someone, and I thought about being that person, who makes a movie for Sundance Film Festival, and they will make a short film using AI, and they will, or there's going to be a scene using AI inside of that movie, and they will not tell anyone. They will not say in the submission, this was made with AI. People will watch that movie, and people will never notice there was AI. And somebody's going to be like, actually, I tricked you. You didn't know because you didn't expect this to come. And I think that's where it comes from. And I think your research is very good here to say that as humans, we're very biased because we're threatened, right? And we know this in filmmaking industry. People just feel threatened.
I don't know, because another part of that study, they mentioned that 43% would want to know if it's AI before, which is quite interesting. But I'll be interested if someone does that. That's the equivalent. That's like you're pulling an Orson Welles there. The idea of the radio broadcast, making people believe something that didn't happen. You're doing that's cool. But I think it comes back to what my point was going towards was, as humans, we want to know someone has created something. We place value in that. It's the same reason we see Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. It's the same reason why same reason why we look at Van Gogh, the story of Van Gogh behind his work. We want to attach a human element. And I think the human element of a piece of art, music, or piece of work will always be more valuable to us as humans because it came from a human, not because it came from an AI. That's where I'm like, is our ego, or is it our want for connection? You know, that's the age-old time human beings want for connection. The same reason you and I are friends, the same reason you have a wife, the same reason I have a girlfriend. It's the wanting these connections. And I think that's the premise of everything here, is that we want that human connection. And you could try and fool us the best you did, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see me overtly knowing that I'm going to the cinema to watch an AI piece of work. Because your premise lies on not telling them.
Yeah, look, the one thing that I disagree with you so much is that you said they were friends.
No.
It's again, I think you confirmed my point. And I think that you have a fair point there, because you have the right to know and you have the right to choose to support artists and people that you like, you don't like. I think there should be a separation of an artist and their
Church
art.
and state.
Yeah, but they're artists and their art, because I, for example, still like to listen to some of Michael Jackson's songs, and, you know, I don't think that that's, you know, like, I think there should be a separation from what they created and who they were as people, right? Otherwise, like, a shitty person can take down the whole industry or the whole movie, right? Like, we know that about Flash, the movie, which struggled because of the main actor. The whole Marvel Kang saga is dead.
Snow White.
Yeah, all of these blockbusters can be taken down because of a person behind them. So that maybe shows that people just care about who is making what.
So I spoke about how, you know, in the early 90s, it was anti-machine, where technology in the 90s and early 2000s was kind of okay. We've now had this huge jump forward in technology and using it in our everyday lives, where we are now actually being a bit more sympathetic towards the use of technology. You know, in films like The Terminator, The Machine We Feel For, Blade Runner, you know, the idea that the entire main character of the new Blade Runner 2046 is an AI machine, to be spoiler if anyone watched the film yet.
2049.
2049. Oh, 2046 was the anime version. Sorry, I'm just know so many films. But just noticing just saying there's been a shift in narrative trend towards support of technology in narrative filmmaking in stories, which is just super interesting.
And also you can, again, if you watch the original Planet of the Apes, you root for humans, but if you watch the new trilogy and you watch the actual starting point of the story, and you see the abused monkeys and you see how humans treat them, you suddenly care for the monkeys, you cheer for the apes, and this is because of the storytelling, right? Like, you need to make... And the human driving it.
And who is, what's the name? The most amazing motion capture artist in existence?
Andy Serkis.
There you go. Human, skilled
artist.
But
you care about the reason. Okay, let me give you an example from real life video. Boston Dynamics. Have you seen the videos of the robots?
Yes.
And you've seen the videos where they kick a robot or push a robot. And because it resembles a human being, people started feeling sorry for a machine that has not even thinking. The only reason for that robot to stand there, and the only thing it can think about, is do not fall or pick myself up. And that is enough for us to humanize it and be like, hey, why are you kicking it? Why are you kicking it? And you cheer for a robot, right? So there are moments in real life where it's just about the storytelling. It's about our tapping into the emotions. And I agree with you. For AI, it's still probably hard to create a story that taps into human emotions. However, you've read quite a few of these books, I've read quite a few of these books about storytelling and how you can basically narrow down storytelling to just a couple of arcs, couple of structures, couple of tricks, right? And if AI can consume these books, and the same way as people study film to become better storytellers, they do film degrees for some reason. I don't know why would anybody get a film degree.
Let's not attack the other person, shall we?
Anyway, let's go to the final one where you can actually defend the film and how when somebody makes something, it's sacred.
In 2013, a film was made by an Indian director with a narrative around a Hindu man and a Muslim woman trying to have a romance, and it ended badly. Maybe this was the director's way of, spotlighting the conflict between these two opposing cultures, and that's to get the audience to think about something. Cool, that's what artists do, that's what filmmakers do, they provoke us to think. Now, on August 1st, the company who I think have that film, Eros, have that film within its catalogue, and they are re-releasing it in cinemas, but having used AI to completely rewrite the ending to make it a happy ending because they think it would suit better for the modern day audience. Now, Mik, is there any film that you would ever remake from 10, 15, 20 years ago and re-release? Do you think that's right? Is that kind of blasphemy in terms of re-angling, redirecting the director's work to please an audience? Would you do it? What do you think?
Now that I think about it, now that you phrase it this way, personally...
You wouldn't change my short films. You wouldn't change my short films. I knew you were going to go that at some point. There we go. No. Thank you.
Personally, I would be opposed to touching somebody else's work. But Hollywood has been making remakes of films forever. Like there are remakes of the same thing, and they change the story. They change the beats of the story. And I think that's been happening forever before AI. And the tragic part here is that the director maybe wasn't consulted, or he didn't know about it. And they used the likeness of the actors, and that's kind of murky waters because they are not remaking the whole film. They're taking the film and just changing a part of it. And can that make the film better or worse? We don't know. We'll need to see. But the examples I can think of from the industry beforehand would be Justice League, which was
the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, it was shot by Zack Snyder, and then because of the tragic incident in his family, he had to step away from the project. And then Joss Whedon, who was just shit hot after directing 2 Avengers movies, was brought in to finish the movie, and then unfortunately incurred tens if not hundreds of millions of reshoots costs just to make the movie worse, because he would just inserted himself into this. That was somebody's vision that was finished by somebody else, didn't turn out well, so then they remade it again with Zack Snyder at the helm. So I think that kind of shows the same thing going twice through the burner here. And yeah, the first attempt wasn't good. The Zack Snyder's version was closer to the actual result. And I think oftentimes the director can be attached to something and they have the vision, but filmmaking is a collaborative medium. And you shouldn't be too precious about something. Sometimes a recut of a movie can make it better. Passengers is a great example.
I told my girlfriend about this the other day, actually how you can recut a movie and just change the whole perspective. Nerd Rider, props. I'm come back to his YouTube channel. He's actually making a lot of good stuff again. He kind of tanked off, but anyway. Yeah,
but that's a good example, right? Like there's a Nerd Rider video where they take the structure of the movie Passengers with Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt, and they just change Act 1 and Act 2 to be flipped. And that changes the whole idea of the movie to be way, 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 way better. And
so good.
So, in general, can you make somebody else's film better by cutting it down? Yes. We talk about this also with Star Wars. It's because of the editor that these movies survived. Because George Lucas, when he was given reins to the Star Wars 1, 2, 3, he proved that he didn't really have everything that it
takes.
Yeah. So the only critical issue here is the use of AI to potentially take the likeness of the actors, not compensate them for the new takes, not compensate them for the
residuals.
So people are just missing out, and somebody else is making those changes without somebody's permission and profiting off of it. We don't know the contract. It's probably been checked by multiple lawyers, so there's probably no recourse for the director. But yeah, the ethical considerations, again, from my perspective, taking an old movie and remaking it might be actually fun. I don't know. I actually don't. I'm not that opposed to it now that I think about it. Like the Stormtrooper vlogs, everything that you watch from Star Wars. It's like, if people want to have fun and create art, just let people create art. And AI is a tool, and it's not going to replace humans anytime soon at the helm of it, at the helm of storytelling, at the helm of creating raw visceral emotions and reactions. But it is a tool that enables you to just do more.
Yeah. I would remake, you know what I watched last night? I would remake the entirety of Happy Gilmore 2, but that's for another time. It's just, I'm really butthurt by this film at the moment. I watched it last night and I'm really angry. Really, really angry. Anyway, that leads us on. So I agree with you, Mick. Cut that in. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. AI as a tool, and I told you I'm like you as well. I believe it's a tool to be used appropriately where, but still humans at the helm. And now, speaking of humans, nice little segment here. Here's our weekly, is it AI or is it real? Could you spot for me in the top row, Scarlett Johansson in, what was it called? Her standalone film that she ended up getting a really bad deal on and she ended up suing Marvel. Black Widow. There we go. Yeah. Black Widow.
I think I can tell that the right hand side is AI.
Correct. And why do you say so?
I can say so because of her chin getting a dimple, and that is if you want to, quick tip, if you want to see whether a beautiful woman has been created by the model called Flux, usually they have this chin or a dimple. That is a big tell. And then it's a little bit more smoothed out. I'm still impressed by the hair, like the strands of hair, they're just like unkept. It's the imperfections. We know that. It's the imperfections that sell the humanity. And I think her forehead looks like yours, which is just full of Botox. Like there's not much reaction there.
Sorry, this is all natural. I'm 32 and doing very well for myself.
Yeah, I'm 35. I had these like crow
You had
feet.
those when I met you.
Yeah, I had these when I was 17. So,
that's what happens when you grow up in the Russian bloc. It happens.
Yeah, it was just super stressful, growing up in the upper middle class family.
Okay,
and then the Tom Cruise one. Yeah. Same thing. On the right hand side is the AI. But it's because it's a different emotion, and it's probably because I'm reflecting on the fact that I've seen the movie. Yeah. And on the right hand side, he's just kind of like more intense and angry, whereas on the left,
warm and sweaty and glossy and
Yeah, but it's just the emotion is wrong. He's more like what, whereas like on the other one, he's more chilled out with his reaction, like you can tell by the body language. And this is, I guess, proving your point a little bit more that you can tell more of a story from this one image on the left-hand side than on the right, because there's like, he's a little bit more worn out. There's a little bit more of he's not clean shaven, right? So he has been outside for quite a bit. He's more hunched over. And yeah, it's way more that you can tell from his acting from this one still on the left than from the AI version of it.
And also just the environment itself. AI loves to put a lovely glowing sunset in the background. Let's warm everything up. Everyone's glowing. Everything's a bit angelic. Have you found? A little bit angelic, like you'd imagine. If someone described to you, what does things like in church look like? It's glowy, it's hot, it's all
I think it also depends on the model quite a bit.
Okay.
These are I would say, and also what you brought the last time, the contrast. The AI thing is a little bit too contrasty here, and that's not how you grade this movie. Because this is the newest Top Gun, right? Like this is the Maverick.
Yeah, that's Maverick.
Yeah. So,
Which
the
was
more
shot
you look
on?
at it was shot
Film.
on. No, it wasn't.
It was.
No, it was shot on Sony Venice.
Am I thinking about they put the IMAX? Oh no, I'm thinking about when they put the IMAX cameras in the planes.
Yeah, no,
because that was IMAX.
No, IMAX is. There were still Sony Venice with the Rialto extension. They specifically built the Rialto extensions so they can use them on Maverick. It's fun that like Sony working with Tom Cruise, actually Tom Cruise has driven, or his movies rather, have driven quite a lot of innovation for Sony. They built specific cameras for Oblivion. They built specific cameras for this one as well.
And then DJI now copying it with the 4D extension cable we can have. Take the sensor off and then wear it as a backpack and then mount it. Well, I think it was Christopher Nolan saying he has fun in mounting IMAX cameras like their GoPros. So it's it's a trend. It keeps going. We can get angles never seen before, and clearly Sony are leading the helm in that.
Yeah, but Christopher Nolan shooting everything on IMAX is a whole other can of worms. So we can open that up next time.
Yep. Okay. I'll keep that can safely in my fridge for now.
All right. Thanks, bro. This
Cool.
is really good. And next week, we're probably going to discuss more about these repercussions on the whole industry. We have a new model from Runway that was just released that's going to bring down the VFX industry. And I don't want to be over dramatic, but next week you'll hear about it.
Okay, until next week, I'm sitting on the exact seat. I will not leave the spot until I'm going to leave the spot next week, but we shall see. Is the industry going to die? Is it going to live? Tune in next week to find out.
All right, see ya.
Ciao.